My name is Lois. I'm 67 years old and recently retired after teaching elementary school for 43 years in our small New England town. My only son Jacob and I used to be incredibly close until he married Amanda 3 years ago. Things have been different since then, but I still got excited for Christmas buying presents months in advance. Then, last week, I received a call from Jacob that left me speechless. He told me I wasn't invited to Christmas this year, just like that, decades of holiday traditions erased. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If my story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of real-life storytellers. After retiring 2 years ago, I found myself adjusting to a quieter life. My husband Tom passed away 5 years ago after a brief battle with cancer, leaving me to navigate widowhood alongside my new retirement. Our modest home that once bustled with activity now felt too quiet most days. Jacob was my only child born when I was 32 after years of trying to conceive. Tom and I had almost given up hope when our miracle baby arrived. Raising Jacob as a working mother hadn't been easy. I juggled teaching full-time while making sure I never missed his baseball games or science fairs. Tom worked 2 jobs so we could afford to live in a good school district. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we managed our money carefully with one goal in mind, giving Jacob the opportunities we never had. When Jacob got accepted to Cornell University, it was the proudest moment of our lives. Tom and I had saved diligently, but college costs were astronomical. We took out a second mortgage on our home to help cover tuition. I picked up summer school teaching and weekend tutoring jobs. Every sacrifice felt worthwhile when Jacob graduated with honors and landed a good job at a marketing firm in Boston, just a 40-minute drive from our home. 3 years ago, when Jacob called to tell us he'd found the perfect house but was struggling with the down payment, Tom and I didn't hesitate. Tom had received a modest inheritance from his parents the year before, and we'd been saving it for something special. "Son, your father and I want to help you with the down payment," I told Jacob over dinner at our house that Sunday. "We've set aside $30,000. It should cover most of what you need." Jacob's eyes had welled up with tears. "Mom, Dad, I can't accept that much money." Tom reached across the table and squeezed Jacob's hand. "Yes, you can. That's what family does. We help each other." What Jacob didn't know was that Tom had already received his cancer diagnosis. It was stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and the prognosis wasn't good. One night, as we lay in bed discussing treatment options, Tom made me promise something. "Lois," he whispered, his voice weak but determined, "promise me you'll always look after Jacob. Help him with the mortgage if he needs it, at least until the house is more affordable for him." I promised without hesitation. After Tom passed, I kept my word. Each month, I sent Jacob a check for $800 toward his mortgage payment. It was a significant portion of my teacher's pension, but I never complained. It felt like honoring Tom's memory and supporting our son simultaneously. Then, Jacob met Amanda at a friend's wedding. Their romance was a whirlwind. Within 6 months, they were engaged, and 3 months later, they were married in a lavish ceremony that Amanda's parents primarily funded. I offered to contribute, but Amanda politely declined, saying her parents had always dreamed of giving their only daughter the perfect wedding. At first, I welcomed Amanda with open arms. She was beautiful, intelligent, and made Jacob happy. What more could a mother want? I invited them for Sunday dinners, sent thoughtful gifts on birthdays and anniversaries, and tried to build a relationship with my new daughter-in-law. "You have to try my mom's apple pie," Jacob would say to Amanda during their visits. "It's a family recipe passed down for generations." Amanda would smile politely. "I'm sure it's delicious, but I'm watching my carbs right now." Small moments like these accumulated over time. When I offered to teach Amanda our family recipes, she mentioned preferring to follow food bloggers online. When I suggested going shopping together, she always had previous commitments. When I brought up family traditions, Amanda would listen politely, but then suggest updating them in ways that usually meant eliminating them altogether. Last Thanksgiving provided the first major sign of trouble. Traditionally, Jacob had always spent Thanksgiving at my house, even after he moved out. It was our special time together. "Mom," Jacob called 2 weeks before the holiday. "Amanda and I have been invited to her parents' place for Thanksgiving this year. They're doing this big gathering with her extended family." "Oh, I said, trying to hide my disappointment. Well, perhaps you could come for dessert afterward, or we could do breakfast together that morning. That's going to be tough. Her parents live 2 hours away and we're staying overnight, but we'll definitely see you soon after. I spent Thanksgiving alone that year watching parade highlights and eating a small turkey breast I'd prepared for myself. Jacob called briefly between dinner and dessert at Amanda's family gathering, sounding rushed and slightly guilty. Despite these disappointments, I remained optimistic about Christmas. It had always been our most special holiday. Tom and I had created magical Christmas mornings for Jacob throughout his childhood, a tradition I continued even after he became an adult. Every Christmas Eve, Jacob would come over to help decorate the tree, and we'd watch It's a Wonderful Life while drinking hot chocolate with peppermint sticks. This year, I started shopping for Christmas gifts in September, carefully selecting items I thought Jacob and Amanda would love. For Jacob, I found a vintage watch similar to the one his father had worn. I'd been saving for it all year. For Amanda, I purchased a beautiful cashmere sweater in her favorite color and a gift certificate to the spa she had mentioned liking. I decorated the house the weekend after Thanksgiving, putting up the artificial tree Jacob and I had picked out after Tom died. I hung the ornaments we'd collected over the years, each one carrying a special memory. I arranged the nativity scene Tom had carved by hand when Jacob was just a baby. Everything was perfect, ready for the holiday celebration I assumed would happen, as it always had. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in mid-December. Outside, snow was falling gently, coating the world in pristine white. I had just finished wrapping another present for Jacob, a collection of books by his favorite author, when my phone rang. Seeing his name on the caller ID, I smiled and answered eagerly. "Jacob, I was just wrapping your Christmas presents." There was a pause on the other end, then a throat clearing. "Hey, Mom, how are you?" Something in his tone immediately put me on alert. He sounded uncomfortable, hesitant, like when he was a teenager preparing to confess he'd stayed out past curfew. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Is everything okay?" Another pause. "Yeah, everything's fine. I'm actually calling about Christmas." My mind raced ahead. Perhaps they wanted to host Christmas at their house this year. That would be different, but I could adapt. Maybe Amanda was preparing a special meal and wanted to surprise me. "What about Christmas?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Well, Amanda and I have been talking, and we've decided that we want to have a quiet Christmas this year. Just the two of us." The words didn't register at first. "What do you mean?" Jacob's voice became slightly firmer, as though he'd rehearsed this part. "We're trying to start our own traditions, Mom. This is our third Christmas as a married couple, and we feel like we need to establish our own holiday routines." I sat down slowly on the edge of my bed, the half-wrapped present still in my lap. "But we always spend Christmas together. It's our family tradition." "I know, Mom, and I appreciate those memories, but things change. People grow up, start their own families." My mind scrambled for solutions. What if I just come for Christmas dinner? Or I could stop by in the morning to exchange gifts and then leave you two alone. There was muffled whispering on the other end of the line. I could make out Amanda's voice, though not her words. Then, Jacob returned his tone noticeably colder. "That's not going to work for us, Mom. We need some space during the holidays. It's important for our marriage." The room seemed to tilt slightly as the full impact of what was happening hit me. "You're saying I'm not invited to Christmas at all? Not even for an hour?" "We think it's better if we have Christmas alone this year. We'll see you some other time, maybe the weekend after." My chest tightened painfully and my free hand began to tremble. 43 years of motherhood, thousands of sacrifices, large and small, and now I was being told I wasn't welcome on the one day families are supposed to be together. "I see," I managed to say, though I didn't see it all. "And when did you decide this?" "We've been thinking about it for a while," Jacob replied, though something in his voice suggested otherwise. "Look, I should go. We can talk more later." "Okay. Love you, Mom." The call ended before I could respond. I sat, motionless on the bed, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Around me, the house gleamed with Christmas decorations that now seemed to mock me. The wrapped and half-wrapped presents for Jacob and Amanda stared back accusingly as if I'd done something wrong by buying them. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my mind, analyzing each word, each pause. Had I somehow offended Amanda? Was Jacob truly behind this decision, or was he being influenced? The questions circled endlessly without answers. In the morning light, the situation felt no less painful, but a new emotion had joined the hurt indignation. I'd raised Jacob as a single mother for the last 5 years of his childhood after Tom got sick and then passed. I'd worked extra jobs to put him through college. I'd given him a substantial portion of my savings for his house down payment. I still contributed to his mortgage every month, and now I wasn't good enough to spend Christmas with. I reached for the phone and called Diana, my best friend since we started teaching together 30 years ago. Diana had been my rock through Tom's illness and death, bringing casseroles, sitting with me, through chemotherapy appointments, and checking on me daily in those first dark months of widowhood. He said, "What?" Diana's outrage was immediate and validating. "After everything you've done for that boy, oh Lois, I'm so sorry. That's just plain wrong." "I don't understand what's happening," I confessed, my voice breaking. "We've always been so close." "It's her," Diana said firmly. "It's that wife of his. She's trying to separate him from you. I've seen it before with my sister's son." "But why? What have I done to make her dislike me?" "Nothing, honey. Some women just can't handle sharing their husband's affection, even with his mother. You need to confront Jacob about this. Remind him of all you've done." The thought of confronting Jacob made my stomach churn. "I don't want to push him away further. He's already pushing you away. Stand up for yourself, Lois." After hanging up, I wandered into my home office and opened my filing cabinet. I pulled out the folder labeled Jacob House, which contained all the records of my financial support: the down payment check copy, the monthly mortgage contribution checks, the property tax assistance last year when they were short. As I spread these documents across my desk, something shifted inside me. The hurt began to crystallize into resentment. I'd given so much, financially, emotionally, practically, and it seemed to mean nothing. I made a decision. I needed to see Jacob face to face, not over the phone. I needed to understand what was really happening. The next morning, I drove the 40 minutes to Jacob and Amanda's house without calling first. It was a lovely colonial in an upscale neighborhood with a large yard and a 2-car garage, a house they wouldn't have without my help. As I pulled onto their street, I noticed an unfamiliar car in their driveway, a luxury SUV I hadn't seen before. I parked a few houses away, suddenly nervous about showing up unannounced. What if they had company? What if this made things worse? I was about to start the car again when I noticed movement by their large bay window. The curtains were partially open and I could see people in the living room. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to walk past casually to see who was visiting. As I approached, staying on the sidewalk, voices drifted through the partially open window. The December air was cold, but still carrying sounds clearly. "I'm so glad you'll be with us for Christmas this year," said a female voice I didn't recognize. "Mom, we wouldn't miss it," Amanda's voice replied. "It'll be nice having a proper family Christmas." My steps faltered. Amanda's parents were inside, apparently discussing Christmas plans, the very same Christmas I'd been told would be just the two of them, starting their own traditions. I moved closer, knowing I shouldn't eavesdrop, but unable to stop myself. "And you're sure Jacob's mother won't be a problem?" Amanda's mother asked. Amanda's laugh was light and dismissive. "Not at all. We finally got rid of the mother-in-law for Christmas. Jacob called her yesterday." "Good," the other woman said. "Last year was so awkward with her calling every few hours. A mother needs to know when to let go." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. There was no quiet Christmas for two, no starting their own traditions. They had simply replaced me with Amanda's family and lied about it. I backed away from the house, tears blurring my vision. I made it to my car before the sobs came deep and painful. It wasn't just the Christmas exclusion now. It was the deliberate deception, the knowledge that my son had lied to spare himself the discomfort of telling me the truth that his wife's family mattered more than his own mother. I drove away from Jacob's neighborhood in a daze, tears streaming down my face. My hands shook on the steering wheel, and twice I had to pull over to compose myself before continuing. The betrayal felt like a physical weight on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. Without consciously deciding where to go, I found myself pulling into the parking lot of a small roadside diner about 20 minutes from Jacob's house. The Red Cardinal Diner was nothing special, just a local place I'd passed many times but never visited. Today, however, I needed somewhere anonymous to sit and think. The diner was nearly empty at mid-morning on a weekday. I slid into a booth by the window, ordered a cup of coffee when the waitress approached, and then promptly burst into tears again when she walked away. "Here you go, hon," the waitress said upon returning, setting down my coffee. She was an older woman, perhaps in her late 50s, with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her name tag read, Greta. She paused, taking in my tear-stained face. "Rough morning." I nodded, embarrassed to be crying in public. "I'm sorry, I don't usually fall apart like this." Instead of moving on to her other customers, Greta slid into the seat across from me. "Place is dead right now anyway. Want to talk about it?" Sometimes a stranger's the best person to unload on. Something about her straightforward kindness broke through my reserve. I found myself telling her everything, about Jacob and Amanda, the uninvitation to Christmas, and the scene I'd just witnessed at their house. Greta listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding. When I finished, she reached across the table and patted my hand. "Family can hurt us like nobody else, can't they? I just don't understand what I did wrong," I said, dabbing at my eyes with a napkin. "Sounds to me like you didn't do anything wrong except be too generous," Greta replied. "My grandmother used to say something that stuck with me. Sometimes we teach people how to treat us by what we allow." "What do you mean?" "Well," she said, refilling my coffee, "when we let people take and take without expecting anything in return, even basic respect, we're teaching them that's an acceptable way to treat us." Her words resonated uncomfortably. Had I taught Jacob it was okay to take my financial support for granted while excluding me from his life? "What would you do?" I asked her. Greta straightened up, smoothing her apron. "I'd stop teaching lessons I don't believe in. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Coffee's on the house today." I drove home slowly, Greta's words echoing in my mind. When I arrived, I went straight to my desk where I'd left my checkbook. It was the 23rd of the month, time for me to write Jacob's monthly mortgage contribution check and put it in the mail. I stared at the blank check for a long moment, pen in hand. For over 3 years, I'd written this check without fail, even when money was tight for me. I'd skipped small luxuries, delayed home repairs, and put off travel dreams to ensure Jacob never had to worry about this portion of his mortgage. And how had he repaid that loyalty with lies and exclusion? I put the pen down and tucked the checkbook back into my drawer. The mortgage payment was due on the 1st. Jacob wouldn't notice the missing payment until then, giving me time to think about my next steps. Over the next week, Jacob called several times. I let each call go to voicemail, not ready to speak with him yet. His messages were casual, making no mention of our previous conversation or the upcoming holiday. "Hey, Mom, just checking in." "Mom, give me a call when you get a chance." Nothing urgent, nothing apologetic. During this time, I did something I'd never done before. I started researching how to set boundaries with adult children. I checked out books from the library with titles like When the Ties That Bind Become the Ties That Break and Motherhood, the Second Chapter. I joined an online forum for parents estranged from their adult children, though my situation wasn't quite that severe yet. What I read surprised me. So many mothers like me who had given everything to their children found themselves sidelined or taken for granted once those children married. The advice was consistent, establish clear boundaries, communicate expectations directly, and, most importantly, stop enabling entitled behavior. One evening, my sister Barbara called from Arizona. We weren't particularly close. Geographic distance and different life paths had created an emotional distance over the years, but we touched base every few weeks. "You sound off, Lois. What's going on?" she asked after we'd exchanged pleasantries. I found myself unburdening the whole situation to her. Barbara, 5 years my senior and blunt by nature, didn't mince words. "So, let me get this straight," she said when I finished. "You're giving that boy $800 every month toward his mortgage, and he can't even include you in Christmas. And lied about why. That's about the size of it," I admitted. "And you're still planning to send the check." I hesitated. "I promised Tom I'd help Jacob." "Tom would never have wanted Jacob to treat you this way," Barbara said firmly. "Your husband wanted you to help your son, not enable him to disrespect you. There's a difference." After our call ended, I sat in my quiet living room, the Christmas tree lights blinking steadily in the corner, illuminating presents that might never be opened by their intended recipients. Barbara's distinction between helping and enabling kept circling in my mind. That night, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. I wouldn't be sending the mortgage check. Instead, I would use that money to book myself a Christmas retreat at a small inn in Vermont I'd read about, which hosted gatherings for holiday orphans, people without family plans for Christmas. The next morning, I called the Snowfall Inn and reserved their last available room for December 23rd through the 26th. I paid the deposit with my credit card using the money I would have sent to Jacob. As I confirmed the booking, a weight seemed to lift from my shoulders. For the first time in my adult life, I was choosing myself over the expectations of others. That same afternoon, I boxed up all the presents I'd bought for Jacob and Amanda and stored them in the guest room closet. I took down some of the Christmas decorations that felt too painful to look at, the ornaments Jacob had made as a child, the stocking with his name embroidered on it, the snow globe we'd bought together on our last family vacation before Tom got sick. The house felt emptier without these cherished items, but also somehow cleaner, as though I'd begun the process of clearing away old patterns that no longer served me. What I didn't anticipate was how quickly Jacob would notice something was wrong. 2 days after I made my decision, my phone lit up with Jacob's name. It was December 1st, the day his mortgage payment was due. I considered letting it go to voicemail as I had with his previous calls, but something told me it was time to face this head on. "Hello, Jacob," I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Mom." He sounded relieved, but also slightly frantic. "I've been trying to reach you for days. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine," I replied. "Just been busy with some personal projects." "Oh, good. Listen, I wanted to check if you sent the mortgage check this month. It's not showing up in my account and the payment's due today." There it was. No concern about my well-being or why I hadn't returned his calls, just worry about the money. I took a deep breath before responding. "No, Jacob, I didn't send it." A pause then. "You didn't send it." "Why not?" "Did something happen? Are you having money problems?" "No, nothing like that. I've just been reconsidering some of my financial commitments." Another pause, longer this time. When Jacob spoke again, his tone had changed. "Mom, we're counting on that money for the mortgage. You know that. You've always sent it." "Yes, I have," I agreed. "Every month for over 3 years, without fail." "So what's different this month?" His voice had an edge now. "What's different is that I've realized our relationship seems to be primarily financial these days. You call when you need money or help, but when it comes to including me in your life, in family holidays, for instance, suddenly there's no room for me." "Is this about Christmas?" he asked, sounding defensive. "Mom, I explained that. Amanda and I need to start our own traditions." "Yes, you explained that you wanted a quiet Christmas with just the two of you. Which is why I was surprised to drive by your house and see Amanda's parents' car in the driveway while you all discussed your Christmas plans together." Silence. I could almost hear him trying to formulate a response. "You were spying on us," he finally managed, attempting to shift the blame. "I came to talk to you in person because I was hurt. I happened to overhear the truth, that I wasn't uninvited for you to have a quiet Christmas for two. I was uninvited so you could spend Christmas with Amanda's family instead of your own." "It's not like that," Jacob protested weakly. "It's exactly like that, Jacob, and that's your choice to make, but my financial support is my choice to make." I heard him take a sharp breath. In the background, I could make out Amanda's voice asking what was wrong. Then, the sound of a hand covering the phone muffled conversation and Amanda's voice growing closer. "Lois," Amanda's voice came through the phone now. "Jacob says there's some confusion about the mortgage payment." "There's no confusion, Amanda. I've decided not to continue contributing to your mortgage. But we're counting on that money," she said, a note of panic in her voice. "I understand that," I replied calmly, "just as I was counting on spending Christmas with my only son as I have every year of his life." "That's not fair," Amanda said. "Christmas and financial arrangements are completely different things." "Are they? Both involve family commitment. Both involve choices about priorities. I've made significant financial sacrifices to help you and Jacob have the life you want. All I asked in return was to be included in family celebrations. You're being manipulative, Amanda accused, using money to try to control us. No, Amanda, I'm establishing a boundary, something I should have done a long time ago. I heard more muffled conversation, then Jacob came back on the line. Mom, you can't just stop the payments. We have a deal. We had an understanding, Jacob, not a legal contract, and that understanding was based on mutual respect. This will change things between us, he warned, his voice tight with anger. I felt a stab of fear at those words, but pushed through it. Things already changed when you uninvited me from Christmas and lied about the reason. Fine, he snapped, if that's how you want it. The call ended abruptly. I sat holding the silent phone, my heart racing. I'd stood my ground, but the cost might be higher than I was prepared to pay. The days following my confrontation with Jacob were some of the loneliest I'd experienced since Tom died. Though I knew intellectually that I'd done the right thing emotionally, I was a wreck. Had I just destroyed my relationship with my only child, Jacob's response came in waves. First, there were the angry texts. I can't believe you're doing this. We won't make the full payment on time. That affects our credit score. This is so selfish of you. Then came the guilt trips. Dad would be disappointed in you. After everything we've been through as a family, I thought I could count on you no matter what. Finally, the half apologies designed to restore the status quo without addressing the real issue. I'm sorry if you misunderstood about Christmas. Maybe we can work something out for the holidays and the mortgage. I didn't respond to any of these messages. Instead, I leaned heavily on my small but sturdy support system. Diana came over with wine and listened as I vented my frustrations. My sister Barbara called daily for updates and pep talks. I even reconnected with Greta from the diner, stopping in for coffee twice that week, finding comfort in her straightforward wisdom. He's testing your resolve, Greta told me over blueberry pie. Kids do that at every age, even when they're grown. Stand firm. Meanwhile, Christmas approached relentlessly. Everywhere I looked were reminders of the holiday I'd be spending without my son for the first time in 35 years. Commercials featuring happy families gathered around dinner tables. Store displays of parents watching children open presents. Even the Christmas cards arriving daily, many featuring multi-generational family photos, seemed to mock my situation. One evening, about 2 weeks before Christmas, my doorbell rang unexpectedly. My heart leapt. Could it be Jacob? Had he come to apologize in person? Instead, I opened the door to find Amanda's mother, Eleanor, standing on my porch. We'd met only a handful of times at family events, always maintaining polite but distant relations. Eleanor, I said, surprised. What brings you here? May I come in? She asked stiffly. I led her into my living room, offering tea, which she declined. I'll get straight to the point, Lois, she said once seated. This business about the mortgage payment needs to stop. Jacob and Amanda are young people trying to establish themselves. Your support was promised, and they've budgeted accordingly. I felt a flash of indignation. I wasn't aware my financial arrangements with my son were any of your business. Eleanor's perfectly made-up face hardened. It becomes my business when my daughter calls me crying because they might miss a mortgage payment. Do you know what that does to a credit score? I'm well aware of how credit scores work, I replied evenly. I'm also aware that Jacob and Amanda together earn more than enough to cover their mortgage without my help. That's not the point. You made a commitment, as did Jacob, to include me in his life not just as a checkbook, but as family. Eleanor sighed dramatically. This is about Christmas, isn't it? Amanda told me you were upset about their plans. I was upset about being lied to, I corrected her. Jacob told me they wanted a quiet Christmas for two, when in fact they were planning to spend it with your family. Well, Eleanor sniffed, perhaps they were trying to spare your feelings. By lying, that spares feelings. Look, Eleanor said, leaning forward, I understand you're lonely since your husband died, but you can't cling to Jacob. He has his own family now. Her words struck like a slap. I'm not clinging to anyone. I'm asking for basic respect and honesty from my son. And now, I'd like you to leave. Eleanor stood gathering her designer handbag. You're being selfish, Lois. A mother should put her children first always. After she left, I sat in stunned silence. Was I being selfish? Was it wrong to expect respect in return for support? The doubt crept in, as I'm sure Eleanor intended. That night, I wrote a long letter to Jacob, not an email or a text, but an actual handwritten letter on stationery. I poured out my feelings without accusations. How much I loved him, how proud I was of the man he'd become, how I understood his primary loyalty now belonged to Amanda. I explained that my decision about the mortgage wasn't punishment but a necessary step toward a healthier relationship. I told him I would always be his mother and would always love him regardless of how we resolved this current conflict. The next day, I drove to Jacob and Amanda's house when I knew they'd be at work. I left the letter in their mailbox along with the Christmas presents I'd purchased months earlier. I couldn't bear the thought of the gifts sitting in my closet unappreciated. Despite everything, I wanted Jacob to have the vintage watch that reminded me so much of his father. As Christmas week arrived, I packed for my solo retreat in Vermont. The Snowfall Inn had emailed a schedule of activities for their Holiday Orphans program. Cookie, decorating a Christmas Eve potluck, movie marathons, and guided winter walks. It wouldn't be the Christmas I'd planned, but I was determined to make the best of it. The inn was everything its website had promised. A charming, converted farmhouse with pine beams, crackling fireplaces, and holiday decorations that managed to be festive without feeling commercial. My room was small but cozy with a window overlooking snow-covered fields. At the welcome reception on December 23rd, I met the other guests. About 15 people in total, all without family plans for various reasons. Patricia, a retired librarian whose children lived overseas. Walter, a widower spending his first Christmas without his wife of 40 years. Siblings May and David, estranged from their parents due to cultural differences. A young couple, Jamal and Ryan, whose families didn't accept their relationship. We were a motley crew united by our lack of traditional family celebrations. Yet as we shared mulled wine and introductions, I felt a surprising sense of community forming. On Christmas Eve, my phone rang while I was helping prepare the potluck dinner. It was Jacob. With trembling hands, I stepped outside to take the call. "Merry Christmas Eve, Jacob," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mom." His tone was subdued. "I got your letter, and the gifts. Thank you for the watch. It's amazing. Dad would have wanted me to have it." "Yes, he would," I agreed softly. A pause. "Then, I'm sorry about how everything happened with Christmas. I should have been honest with you from the start. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. I appreciate that." "Where are you?" he asked suddenly. "I called the house and got no answer. Diana wouldn't tell me anything except that you were kin. I'm at a Christmas retreat in Vermont. It's lovely here. Vermont alone at Christmas." He sounded genuinely shocked. "Not alone. There are other guests here. We're having quite a nice time. But it's Christmas, Mom. Family should be together at Christmas." The irony of his statement wasn't lost on me. "That's what I thought too, Jacob." After we hung up, I rejoined the potluck preparations with a lighter heart. Jacob's call wasn't a resolution to our problems, but it was an acknowledgement. And for now, that was enough. Christmas Day at the Snowfall Inn was unlike any holiday I'd experienced before, yet wonderful in its own way. We exchanged small gifts in the morning. Everyone had been asked to bring an inexpensive, unwrapped present for a blind gift exchange. I received a beautiful hand-knitted scarf from May, who beamed when I immediately wrapped it around my neck. Patricia and Walter had become my fast friends, and the three of us went for a snowy walk in the afternoon discussing books, travel dreams, and yes, our complicated family situations. "My daughter lives in Australia," Patricia told me as we trudged through the pristine snow. "She moved there 15 years ago for work and met her husband. They have 3 children I've only met twice. It breaks my heart, but what can you do? You can't force people to want you in their lives." "But you stay in touch?" I asked. "Oh, yes. Weekly video calls, care packages, birthday cards. I've learned to find joy in the connection we do have, rather than mourning what we don't." Walter nodded in agreement. "That's wisdom right there. After Margaret died, her children from her first marriage stopped calling. 40 years I was their stepfather, and now nothing. I could be bitter, but what good would that do? Instead, I'm building new connections like with you, fine ladies." Their perspectives helped me see my situation with Jacob in a new light. Perhaps our relationship needed to evolve. Perhaps I'd been clinging to old patterns that no longer fit our current lives. The thought was both painful and freeing. That evening, as we all gathered in the inn's main room for carols around the piano, I felt a surprising sense of peace. This wasn't the Christmas I'd planned, but it had brought unexpected gifts of friendship and clarity. Back home after the holidays, I made an appointment with a financial advisor to rework my budget without the monthly mortgage contribution to Jacob. It would allow me to finally tackle some home repairs I'd been postponing, and perhaps even take a proper vacation, something I hadn't done since Tom died. As the new year began, I found myself embracing new activities and friendships. I joined a book club at the library, started volunteering at the elementary school where I'd taught for so many years, and became a regular at Greta's diner, often bringing Diana along for lunch. Jacob and I maintained a strained but civil relationship through January, exchanging occasional texts and brief phone calls. He never directly asked about resuming the mortgage payments, though he did mention they'd figured out a solution, which I later learned meant Amanda's parents were now contributing the amount I used to provide. Then, in early February, Jacob called with an unexpected request. "Mom, could we meet for coffee, just you and me?" The small cafe where Jacob suggested we meet was halfway between our homes, a neutral territory neither of us frequented regularly. I arrived 15 minutes early, too nervous to risk being late, and claimed a quiet table in the corner. My stomach churned with anxiety as I waited, stirring my tea without drinking it. When Jacob walked in, I was struck by how tired he looked. There were shadows under his eyes, and his normally neat appearance seemed slightly rumpled, as though he'd been under stress. Despite everything, my maternal instinct surged. I wanted to smooth his hair and ask if he was eating properly. "Mom," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. His smile was tentative, almost shy. "Jacob," I replied, resisting the urge to reach for his hand. "It's good to see you." He ordered a coffee from the server, then turned back to me. "Thanks for meeting me. I know things have been complicated between us." "Yes, they have." An uncomfortable silence settled between us. Jacob fidgeted with a sugar packet, tearing the corners methodically. "I read your letter," he finally said. "Several times, actually." I nodded but didn't speak, giving him space to continue. "It made me think about a lot of things, about Dad, about growing up, about everything you and he sacrificed for me." He looked up, meeting my eyes directly for the first time. "And about how I've been taking you for granted." His words caught me off guard. I'd expected defensiveness, perhaps even demands to resume the financial support. This vulnerability was unexpected. "The thing is," Jacob continued, "Amanda and I have been having some problems. Her parents, they can be pretty controlling, especially her mom. They contributed to our mortgage after you stopped, but it came with strings attached. Lots of strings." I thought of Eleanor's visit to my home and could easily imagine the conditions she'd placed on her financial help. "That must be difficult," I said neutrally. Jacob ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that my heart clenched. "It made me realize something. Your support never came with conditions. You gave because you loved me, not to control me." "I've always wanted what's best for you," I said softly. "I know that now. I always knew it, but I understand it better." He took a deep breath. "The Christmas thing was wrong. I should have been honest with you from the start. Amanda's mom was pressuring us to spend the holiday with them, and I took the path of least resistance. By lying to me," I stated plainly. Jacob winced, but nodded. "Yes, by lying to you. It was easier than standing up to Eleanor or disappointing Amanda. I convinced myself it was just one holiday, that it wasn't a big deal. But seeing how hurt you were and then spending Christmas with Amanda's family..." He trailed off. "What about it?" I prompted. "It was awful," he admitted. "Her mom criticized everything. Amanda's cooking, their gift choices, even how they decorated their tree. Her dad spent the whole time talking about how much financial help they give us. I kept thinking about our Christmases growing up, how fun and relaxed they were, how you never made me feel indebted for the gifts you gave." I allowed myself a small smile. Those are good memories for me, too. "I messed up, Mom, with Christmas, with how I've taken your financial help for granted, with a lot of things." He reached across the table, hesitantly, extending his hand. "I'm sorry." I looked at his outstretched hand, the same hand I'd held when he took his first steps bandaged after countless childhood falls squeezed when he graduated college. Slowly, I placed my hand in his. I forgive you, Jacob, but things need to change. I know, he agreed quickly. That's part of what I wanted to talk about. Amanda and I have been doing some serious thinking about our finances. We're refinancing the mortgage to something we can manage on our own. No help from you or her parents. Are you sure that will mean some lifestyle adjustments? Jacob nodded firmly. It's time we stood on our own feet. Besides, it's not fair to you. You should be enjoying your retirement, not supporting us. I promised your father I would help you, I reminded him. Dad would understand that things change. He'd want you to be happy, to live your own life. Jacob squeezed my hand. Besides, the best way you can help me now is by being my mom, not my banker. We spent the next hour outlining new boundaries for our relationship. Monthly family dinners, clear expectations about holidays. We agreed to alternate Christmas between my house and Amanda's parents and, most importantly, honest communication. What about Amanda? I asked eventually. Does she know you're here? Jacob nodded. It was actually her suggestion. After Christmas with her family, she understood better why I always loved our family traditions, and she felt guilty about how everything happened. I was skeptical, but tried not to show it. I'd like us all to have a fresh start. The first family dinner under our new arrangement took place the following weekend at my house. I kept the menu simple. Jacob's favorite lasagna, garlic bread, and salad. Nothing fancy or pressure-filled. Amanda arrived with a bouquet of flowers and an awkward smile. Thank you for having us over, Lois. Your home looks lovely. The evening wasn't without tension. Amanda remained somewhat reserved, her politeness feeling forced at times. But there were moments of genuine connection, too. Her compliments on my lasagna recipe seemed sincere, as did her interest when I mentioned my new volunteer work at the school. As winter melted into spring, our new family dynamic slowly stabilized. Jacob and Amanda came for dinner every third Sunday. We talked on the phone weekly. When Jacob's birthday arrived in April, I was included in the celebration at their house, alongside Amanda's parents, a small but significant step. Amanda remained cooler toward me than I would have liked, but the open hostility was gone. I suspected we would never be close, but perhaps we could achieve a respectful coexistence. Meanwhile, my own life blossomed in unexpected ways. My friendship with Greta from the diner deepened, and we began taking weekend day trips to explore nearby towns. Patricia and Walter from the Christmas retreat stayed in touch, and we planned a summer meetup at Patricia's lake house. My sister Barbara visited for a week in May, our first extended time together in years. As we sat on my back porch drinking wine one evening, she remarked on the change in me. You seem lighter, Lois, more at peace. I considered her observation. I think I am. Setting boundaries with Jacob was terrifying, but it forced me to focus on my own life again. I've spent so many years being primarily Jacob's mother that I'd forgotten how to just be Lois. Tom would be proud of you, Barbara said. He always worried you'd sacrifice too much of yourself for Jacob. Did he tell you that? Barbara nodded. The last time I visited before he died. He made me promise to watch out for you, make sure you lived your own life after he was gone. I haven't done a great job of that from Arizona. You're here now, I said, refilling our glasses. That counts for a lot. The following Christmas was a test of our new family arrangement. As agreed, Jacob and Amanda spent Christmas Eve and morning with me, then went to her parents' home for dinner. It wasn't the day-long celebration of past years, but the time we had felt more genuine, less obligatory. Amanda had even helped me decorate cookies, a tradition from Jacob's childhood. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, she surprised me with a confession. I was jealous of your relationship with Jacob, she said quietly, focusing on icing a snowman. My parents never had the kind of bond with me that you have with him. I guess I thought if I could separate you two, Jacob would be more attached to me instead. Her honesty caught me off guard. And now, Amanda looked up, meeting my eyes. Now I realize relationships don't work that way. Jacob loving you doesn't mean he loves me less. It's not a competition. It wasn't a complete transformation. Amanda and I would likely never share the mother-daughter relationship I'd once hoped for. But it was a start, an opening for something more authentic between us. As for Jacob and me, our relationship had evolved into something different than before. Not better or worse, just changed. There was more honesty between us now, more equal footing. We were building a new kind of bond based not on financial dependence or obligation, but on mutual respect and genuine affection. The path hadn't been easy, and there had been moments when I'd feared I'd lost my son completely. But standing up for myself had ultimately led to something healthier for both of us. By refusing to be taken for granted, by skipping that mortgage payment when he uninvited me from Christmas, I'd opened the door to a more balanced relationship. Looking back, I could see that Tom had been right all along. The best way to help Jacob wasn't to keep him financially dependent, but to foster his independence while maintaining our emotional connection. It had taken a painful Christmas separation to learn that lesson, but some gifts come in unexpected packages. A year has passed since that difficult Christmas when I found myself uninvited from my son's holiday celebration. Last week, as I hung ornaments on my tree, including several new ones I'd collected during my travels this year, I found myself reflecting on everything that had changed. After our financial separation, Jacob truly stepped up to handle his own mortgage and expenses. He and Amanda refinanced their home to a more manageable payment, and while it meant some lifestyle adjustments, Jacob seems prouder of their home now that they're fully responsible for it themselves. "It's different when you know you've earned something completely on your own," he told me over coffee last month. I didn't realize how important that feeling would be until I experienced it. With the money I no longer contribute to Jacob's mortgage, I've been able to pursue dreams I'd put on hold for years. I joined a senior travel group that takes quarterly trips to different states. I've visited Maine, Tennessee, and Colorado so far, with plans for California in the spring. I've also finally renovated my outdated kitchen and bathroom, practical improvements that make my daily life more comfortable. My social circle has expanded in ways I never expected. Greta from the diner is now one of my closest friends. We meet weekly for lunch and have started a small book club with 3 other women. Diana remains a steadfast presence, always ready with practical advice or a shoulder to lean on. My sister Barbara and I talk more frequently, planning her next visit for the coming summer. Patricia and Walter from the Christmas retreat have stayed in touch as well. Walter even visited for a weekend in July, leading to speculation from Diana and Greta about a potential romance. Speculation I firmly, but smilingly, deny. The most surprising development has been my unexpected friendship with Eleanor Amanda's mother. After months of chilly interactions at family gatherings, we found ourselves seated together at Jacob and Amanda's anniversary dinner in September. Perhaps it was the wine, or perhaps enough time had passed, but our conversation that night moved beyond polite small talk. "I misjudged you," Eleanor admitted after her second glass of Chardonnay. "I thought you were clinging to Jacob out of loneliness. And I thought you were deliberately trying to separate him from me," I replied honestly. Eleanor smiled ruefully. "Perhaps I was a little. I've always been overly involved in Amanda's life. My husband says I don't know when to step back." That conversation opened a door between us. While we'll never be best friends, we've reached an understanding based on our shared love for our children. We even collaborated on Thanksgiving dinner this year, combining traditions from both families into a new celebration that felt inclusive rather than competitive. Jacob and Amanda seem happier too, more settled in their marriage now that they're navigating their own financial path. The tension that once surrounded our family gatherings has dissipated, replaced by a more genuine connection. Amanda has softened toward me, even asking for my input occasionally on home decorating or gardening questions. Last month, Jacob called with news that still brings tears to my eyes when I think about it. "Mom," he said, his voice vibrant with excitement, "Amanda and I are expecting. You're going to be a grandmother next summer." The baby, a girl we learned at the most recent ultrasound, is due in July. Already, Amanda has asked if I would share family traditions and baby care tips, a request that would have seemed impossible during our difficult period. "We want her to know her heritage from both sides of the family," Amanda told me during their last visit. "Your stories about Jacob's childhood, your family recipes, those should be part of her life too." The journey from that painful Christmas uninvitation to where we are now wasn't straightforward or easy. There were awkward conversations, tentative reconciliations, occasional backsliding into old patterns. Building healthier family dynamics is a process, not an event. The most valuable lesson I've learned through all of this is that enabling isn't the same as loving. When I continued to provide financial support without expecting basic respect in return, I wasn't helping Jacob become his best self. I was teaching him that my feelings and needs were less important than his convenience. By standing firm, by skipping that mortgage payment when he excluded me from Christmas, I forced us both to reevaluate our relationship. The short-term pain led to long-term healing. Tom would be proud of where we've landed, I think. Not because everything is perfect, it isn't, but because we're all being more authentic with each other. The relationships in our family are now based on mutual respect rather than obligation or dependence. As I prepare for Christmas this year, which will include both a Christmas Eve celebration at my house and Christmas dinner at Eleanor and Richard's, I feel grateful for the difficult journey that brought us here. Sometimes the greatest gifts come from our most painful experiences. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to establish boundaries with family members? How did it change your relationship? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of family challenges and triumphs. Thank you for listening to my story, and may your own family journeys bring you wisdom and peace, even through the difficult chapters.